This unsolved cold case remains the most notorious stain on the history of hip-hop and American music. Picture this. It is the height of the 1990s, and the biggest star on the planet is riding shotgun in a black BMW down the neon-lit Las Vegas Strip, completely unaware that his final hours have already begun ticking down. The shocking crime scene evidence would eventually point to a web of betrayal so deep that even today, people are terrified to speak the whole truth. But before we dive into the blood-soaked pavement of September 1996, I need you to pause for a second and tell me in the comments, which city are you tuning in from today? And what time is it where you are watching this right now? Your answer might just prove how far the shadow of this legend actually reaches. Because the man we are talking about tonight thought he was untouchable. He was dead wrong. Listen to me carefully. Tupac Shakur was not just a rapper. He was a global phenomenon, an actor, a poet, and a revolutionary who held the entire music industry in the palm of his hand. From the outside, his life looked like the ultimate rags-to-riches triumph, dripping with diamond medallions, platinum records, and the kind of blinding fame most people can only dream about. He had recently signed with Death Row Records, aligning himself with Suge Knight, the most feared executive in the entertainment business. They were kings of the West Coast, untouchable emperors ruling an empire built on raw talent and relentless intimidation. But behind the flashing cameras and the sold-out arenas, a terrifying paranoia was slowly eating away at him. He knew someone was watching his every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This dark, hidden reality was something his millions of fans knew absolutely nothing about. While the media painted him as the ultimate embodiment of the thug life ethos, the real Tupac was obsessively writing out his last will and testament, convinced he would not live to see his 26th birthday. He was constantly looking over his shoulder, wearing bulletproof vests even in the sweltering heat of the California sun. The people closest to him noticed a chilling shift in his behavior in those final months. He was rushing to record as much music as humanly possible, spending sleepless nights in the studio as if he was trying to outrun a ghost. But the terrifying truth was that the threat wasn't a ghost at all. It was someone hiding right in plain sight. The shocking autopsy report revealed the devastating physical toll of his final night. But the emotional scars he carried leading up to that moment were even more profound. He was caught in the crossfire of an escalating rivalry, a media-manufactured war that was rapidly bleeding out of the magazine pages and pouring onto the city streets. But to blame what happened entirely on a simple hip-hop feud is to ignore the massive financial stakes, the corrupt police officers who moonlighted as gang enforcers, and the shadowy underworld figures who were actively using his monumental fame as a shield for their own lucrative criminal enterprises. Tupac truly thought he was using his powerful new label to elevate his political message and uplift his community. But the harsh reality was that they were using him as a highly profitable pawn. And pawns, no matter how valuable they might seem to the outside world, are ultimately designed to be sacrificed. Let me ask you this. Were you a fan of his back then? Or did you discover his music after he was already gone? The man sitting in the passenger seat of that BMW on September 7th was exhausted, drained from carrying the weight of a culture and surrounded by vultures masquerading as brothers. He had just attended the Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand, a night that was supposed to be a massive celebration of power and victory. The casino floor was absolutely packed with celebrities, hustlers, and heavy hitters, all orbiting around the undeniable gravity of Tupac Shakur. He was laughing, smiling for the cameras, and projecting the aura of an invincible titan who owned the world. It felt like the perfect stage for a king to hold court. He had absolutely no idea that the very people smiling back at him had already set the trap. The chilling surveillance footage from inside the MGM Grand lobby captured the exact moment the fuse was lit, forever changing the course of music history. It was just past 8:30 in the evening, and the adrenaline in the air was thick enough to choke on after Tyson destroyed Bruce Seldon in less than 2 minutes. Tupac was buzzing, practically vibrating with that intense, chaotic energy he was so famous for, strutting through the crowded casino floor, surrounded by an impenetrable wall of death row bodyguards. Suddenly, a whisper cut through the noise, a brief exchange of words that pointed out a rival gang member named Orlando Anderson, lingering near the elevator banks. In a flash of blind loyalty and misplaced aggression, Tupac charged forward, throwing the first punch and initiating a massive, chaotic brawl right there on the casino carpet. Security guards scrambled, the crowd scattered in sheer terror, and for a fleeting moment, Tupac stood triumphant over his bruised enemy, unaware that he had just signed his own death warrant. He walked out into the suffocating desert heat, feeling like an absolute god among men. But the wheels of vengeance were already turning in the shadows. Let me ask you something right now. Drop down into the comments and tell me, do you remember exactly where you were when the news first broke that night? Or were you too young to experience the shockwave in real time? As Tupac retreated to his hotel room to change out of his silk shirt and throw on a black basketball jersey, the energy in the city had shifted from celebratory to deeply sinister. By 10:55, he was sliding into the passenger seat of Suge Knight's sleek, brand-new black BMW 750iL, the ultimate symbol of West Coast wealth and untouchable power. They rolled out into the neon-drenched streets, forming a massive 10-car convoy of luxury vehicles packed with heavily armed enforcers, bumping music so loud it rattled the windows of the passing taxicabs. The Vegas Strip was a sea of flashing lights, drunken tourists, and fans screaming Tupac's name as they spotted him hanging out of the window, smiling and flashing signs to the crowd. It felt like a parade thrown for an invincible conqueror, completely masking the horrifying truth that a predator was currently hunting them down. When the terrifying witness testimonies finally began to leak to the public, they painted a picture of a meticulously coordinated strike, rather than a random act of street violence. It was exactly 11:15 when the black BMW rolled to a stop at a red light at the crowded intersection of East Flamingo Road and Koval Lane, just a stone's throw away from the blinding lights of the Las Vegas Strip. The music was absolutely blaring, drowning out the ambient noise of the city, and Tupac was distracted, talking to a group of women in a Chrysler that had pulled up on his left side. He was laughing, flirting, entirely focused on the adoration of his fans, leaving his right flank completely exposed to the dark, empty lane beside them. No one in the heavily armed death row convoy noticed the late-model, white four-door Cadillac slowly creeping up to the passenger side of the BMW. The tinted windows of the Cadillac began to glide down in terrifying slow motion, revealing the cold, dark steel of a high-caliber weapon. The shocking ballistics report would later detail the sheer, devastating brutality of the 14 frantic seconds that followed. Before anyone could even scream a warning, the deafening roar of a .40 caliber Glock tore through the warm desert air, completely shattering the illusion of their invincibility. Fire and glass erupted as a relentless hail of bullets ripped through the passenger door, shredding the metal like it was made of wet paper and instantly transforming the luxury vehicle into a rolling slaughterhouse. Tupac frantically tried to climb into the back seat to escape the barrage, but the sheer volume of fire was insurmountable, and 4 hollow-point rounds found their mark, tearing through his chest, pelvis, and right hand. Suge Knight was grazed by fragmentation, bleeding from his head, as the white Cadillac immediately peeled out and vanished into the neon abyss of the city, leaving behind a scene of unspeakable horror. The greatest rapper in the world was bleeding out on the plush leather seats, fighting for every single breath. But the true nightmare of this investigation was only just beginning. This catastrophic crime scene should have been the easiest case in Las Vegas history to crack, yet it instantly dissolved into a labyrinth of lies and intentional dead ends. The blaring sirens pierced the desert night as Suge Knight drove the bullet-riddled BMW away, halting near aggressive cruisers. The initial police response was heavily criticized as a complete disaster, with officers drawing weapons and treating the bleeding victims like hostile combatants rather than securing forensic evidence. I want you to drop a comment right now and tell me, do you believe the local police were just incredibly incompetent that night? Or were they actively ordered to look the other way? The golden hour of the investigation was squandered, while crucial witnesses from the death row convoy were miraculously allowed to walk away without giving formal statement. The shooting location was left completely exposed, allowing critical clues to be trampled by crowds and compromised beyond repair. It seemed like the authorities were doing everything to let the shooters vanish, but the terrifying reason why was buried inside the classified files of a corrupt gang unit. They were secretly protecting a monster. The staggering medical records detailed a grueling 6-day fight for survival. But outside those sterile hospital walls, a deafening wall of silence descended upon the streets. Tupac was placed in a medically induced coma, fighting through surgeries while armed guards patrolled the corridors, terrified the hitmen would return to finish the job right there in the intensive care unit. Lead detectives quickly realized they were hitting a brick wall of intimidation, as the infamous street code of silence was strictly enforced by the people who claimed to love the rapper the most. Even when Suge Knight was finally interviewed, he famously claimed he heard nothing and saw nothing, blatantly refusing to cooperate despite sitting inches away from the man bleeding to death. This infuriating lack of cooperation allowed the Las Vegas police to effortlessly wash their hands of the investigation, quietly sweeping the paperwork under the rug. But the whispers echoing through the private VIP rooms of Hollywood painted a much more sinister picture of what was really happening. The actual order to pull the trigger did not come from a rival street gang. It came from a boardroom. The suppressed internal affairs documents eventually exposed a horrifying overlap between the world's most dangerous record label and the officers sworn to protect Los Angeles. As independent journalists dug past the lazy official narrative, they discovered off-duty officers were actively moonlighting as heavily armed security for death row records, creating a syndicate where the line between law enforcement and organized crime completely vanished. This compromised network meant Las Vegas investigators were essentially sharing sensitive case files with prime suspects, allowing crucial witness testimonies to be intimidated into silence and vital evidence to conveniently disappear. When the bullet casings recovered from the intersection were analyzed, rumors swirled that the murder weapon was terrifyingly linked to another high-profile hip-hop assassination that would rock the world just 6 months later. The deeper independent investigators dug into this tangled web of corrupt cops, missing guns, and falsified police reports. The more they realized they were tracking a phantom who had the power to make entire departments look the other way. They thought they were hunting a ruthless street thug, but they had unknowingly stumbled into the hunting grounds of an untouchable mastermind. This unresolved investigative nightmare continued to haunt the hip-hop community for decades, leaving millions desperate for justice, while the actual perpetrators walked free and flaunted their blood money. The media relentlessly pushed the narrative that Orlando Anderson was the sole shooter, tying the assassination up as a casino brawl gone wrong. But the financial paper trail told a different story. Millions were mysteriously missing from Tupac's royalties. Lucrative life insurance policies were quietly paid out to shadowy beneficiaries, and the power vacuum made certain executives unimaginably wealthy overnight. We have to ask ourselves, who actually possessed the sheer financial power to orchestrate a hit in the middle of Las Vegas, pay off local gang members to take the fall, and silence the police departments of 2 major cities? The answer was hidden in a mountain of overlooked FBI wiretaps and forgotten informant transcripts, pointing directly to a figure so deeply embedded in the music industry that saying their name out loud was considered a death sentence. The public was brainwashed into looking at the triggerman, completely ignoring the billionaire who actually paid for the bullets. The recently declassified federal wiretaps finally cracked the impenetrable wall of silence that choked this investigation for 3 decades. For 27 years, the world was force-fed the convenient lie that this was just another casualty of a rap war. But the streets never forget, and the ghosts of the past have a terrifying way of clawing back to the surface. I need you to answer me honestly in the comments right now. Do you believe justice delayed is still justice? Or does a 30-year wait mean the system completely failed him? The real breakthrough did not come from brilliant police work, but from the arrogant hubris of the men who orchestrated the slaughter. They thought time granted them absolute immunity, allowing them to openly brag about their involvement in podcast interviews, as if discussing a movie plot instead of a murder. Investigators were quietly listening, slowly building an airtight federal case that would finally expose the puppet master pulling the strings. The man who handed over the murder weapon thought he outsmarted the world, but he was about to walk directly into an inescapable trap. This astonishing grand jury indictment centered entirely around a former gang kingpin named Dwayne "Keefe D. Davis, who literally wrote a book detailing his exact role in the assassination. He openly confessed to being the shot caller, sitting in the front passenger seat of that infamous white Cadillac, handing the Glock to his nephew in the back seat. He essentially gave Las Vegas police a signed confession, wrapped in breathtaking arrogance, confirming the casino brawl was merely a convenient catalyst for a hit already in motion. The most chilling revelation was not who pulled the trigger, but the staggering $1 million bounty allegedly placed on Tupac by bitter rivals, funded by shadowy executives desperate to dismantle the death row empire. Keefe D admitted they were hunting Tupac all night before twisted luck placed them next to the BMW at that fatal red light. They operated as paid mercenaries, disguised as street thugs, motivated entirely by blood money promised but never fully delivered. The triggermen were simply disposable tools in a much larger corporate war. But the ultimate betrayal came from the very people sitting at Tupac's own table. The devastating financial audits of death row records revealed the darkest secret of this tragedy, proving that Tupac was actively planning his escape. In the weeks leading up to his death, he finally realized his record label was bleeding him dry, withholding millions in royalties while keeping him trapped in absolute control. He had just fired his management, launched his own production company, and was taking legal steps to permanently sever ties with the most dangerous men in the entertainment industry. The casino fight was nothing but a tragic smokescreen, a perfectly timed distraction providing ultimate plausible deniability for an assassination that needed to happen before Tupac walked away with his master tapes. The people profiting off his genius knew a dead legend was infinitely more profitable than a living, independent artist about to expose their massive financial crimes. They allowed him to walk into a war zone with absolutely no lethal protection, orchestrating a scenario where his notorious temper served as the perfect alibi for his execution. He fought to survive, but his fate was sealed the moment he signed that cursed contract. This conclusion forces us to look into the mirror and confront a deeply disturbing reality about the idols we worship and the blood-soaked machines manufacturing them. Is the ultimate price of blinding fame always paid in blood? And are we complicit by consuming the drama that gets these brilliant artists killed? Tupac Shakur possessed a prophetic soul, a man who predicted his own violent demise in almost every song because he intimately understood the absolute ruthlessness of the monsters breathing down his neck. The darkest truth of this entire cold case is that it was never truly a mystery at all. It was a perfectly executed corporate liquidation, carried out in plain sight, completely hidden behind the tragic illusion of gang violence. The system never failed to solve his murder. It worked exactly as designed, protecting the immense wealth of the untouchable elite while the brilliant poet was left to bleed out on the asphalt. Thank you for walking down this dark path with me today. If you want to uncover the terrifying secrets behind the world's most notorious mysteries, you need to hit that subscribe button right now.